Hey, I'm Liz from No Trace. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a really easy Apple AirTag keychain. This comes together with just a few pieces of scrap fabric and a little split ring. And if you look here, you can see that there is an opening in the back of the AirTag keychain where you can slide your AirTag into the keychain, and then it goes under another piece of fabric so that it's super secure and you don't need any zippers or buttons to make it. So let me walk you through the materials that go into this really simple keychain. It comes together with 3 circles of fabric, and I am using a little round pattern piece that has a diameter of 3 5/8 of an inch. So you could create a circle using a compass, or you might be able to find a jar lid in your cupboard that measures 3 5/8 of an inch. I found one from Mazzetta. We eat a lot of their capers and other fun little pickled vegetables. So you're going to want to either find a jar lid or use a compass to make a really nice pattern piece. Once you have the pattern piece, you just need to trace it out and cut out 3 circles of fabric and 1 piece of cotton batting. And the batting is nice because it gives the keychain a little bit more structure and stiffness, and it also protects the AirTag a little bit more if it gets dropped. One other thing I want to say about this AirTag keychain is that someone wouldn't really know that it was an AirTag keychain if they saw it. So if you want to have, an AirTag that's kind of discreet, this is a nice option because a lot of the AirTag keychains I've seen on YouTube will show on the back, a part of the AirTag, so it's pretty identifiable. But with this keychain, it's not totally clear what's inside, and you can still get your AirTag in and out because you do need to change the batteries on the AirTags every now and then. So you want something that you can take your AirTag in and out of. All right, so you have your scraps of fabric. You also need 2 inches of ribbon or some thin strap. I have a whole tutorial on how to make straps in any size. This is a strap that's 2 inches long and it's a 1/2 inch wide. So you could very easily make one of these guys on your own, or just use a 1/2 inch piece of ribbon or a little bit of cording. And then you also need a split ring, and this is something you probably have one of these floating around your house on a keychain that you don't use anymore, but it just allows you to sort of pull apart the sides of the ring so you can slide the keychain onto the ring. And if you don't have one of these floating around your house, I bet you can find one at your local craft store. So that is really all of the pieces to make this simple keychain. So now I'm going to walk you through the steps. So the first step is to decide which of your scraps is going to be the front of your keychain. So I think I'm going to go with this cute little dog piece, and I'm going to do some very simple quilting to quilt the fabric onto the piece of batting. So I'm going to go over to my machine and just show you how to do this super simple quilting. Okay, now I'm at my sewing machine here, and I am going to turn my stitch length up to the longest stitch length on my Juki, that is 5 millimeters. And I'm going to just start quilting in the center. You could start on the side too. I'm doing it here, and I'm just going to go straight down, sewing through both layers. Okay, and once this first row of stitches is finished, I'm going to keep stitching. I'm going to do every 1/2 inch or so. I'm going to do another row of stitches until I'm finished. Okay, I finished quilting one of the pieces of fabric onto the cotton batting, which you can see here. So the next step, I'm going to actually set this aside, and the next step, I am going to be folding up one edge of each of the other two pieces. So I actually want to fold up the top edge on one of these circles and the bottom edge on the other circle. These are going to get overlapped on the back of my keychain to create that little opening for the AirTag to go in and out. So as you can see, the piece that has a flat side near the top is more visible than the piece that has the flat side near the bottom. So you just want to decide, and maybe you don't care, which is totally fine, but if you have a preference, which piece is going to be more visible on the back of your keychain. So for me, it's going to be the little pink doggy. So I'm going to fold the top edge of the circle down 3/4 of an inch. And you want to be fairly precise with this, because if your measurements are really off, it gets hard to get your AirTag in and out, or it's too easy to get your AirTag in and out and it could slide out, and then, then it's not in its keychain where it's supposed to be. So you want to measure from the top edge of the circle, and you want to fold it down from there 3/4 of an inch. And then you can finger press it, or if your iron is handy, just do a quick iron. My iron is right here. So just a quick little iron there. And then for the second piece, you want to measure the bottom edge of the circle, and you want to fold that up 3/4 of an inch. So again, just line up one point on the circle and fold it down so that the tallest point of your fabric is 3/4 of an inch. And I have a lovely little hemming ruler that's really nice for measuring hems like this, but I forgot to bring it over to my table. So off the table, out of the video. I'm sorry. It's just the way it has to go sometimes. But maybe that little ruler will make an appearance in a future video. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew a straight line across the fabric that I just folded over. So I'm going to do a straight line across the top edge of the little red dog, and then a straight line across the bottom edge of the little blue dog. And I'm going to put my stitch length back down to my regular length, because I'm not quilting. This can just be a regular length. And I'm just going to go straight down. So if you look at my sewing machine now, you can see super fast and easy. And this piece also. I'm sewing about 1/8 of an inch away from the folded over edge. Okay, so now I have my two pieces, and they have both been hemmed. This keychain comes together super fast, and this would make a very sweet gift for someone if you wanted to make them a keychain and get them an AirTag. I think these are only like 25 bucks. They're not crazy expensive. Okay, so I have my pieces. So the next thing to do is to put them all together. And what I like to do first is actually take my little 2-inch strap, fold it in half, and with the folded edge pointed down, I'm actually going to sew it onto the top edge of my outer piece of the keychain. Okay, so I'm just centering it there, and I'm just going to do a couple of rows of stitches real quick so that it's super secure. Okay, so I'm back at my Juki here. What did I do to my thread? Okay, that looks better. And I've got my little strap. I'm just going to go real close to the edge with about 3 rows of stitches. So I'm going across and now back stitching, and once more. Okay, so it's secured in place like that. Okay, and now that this is secured, you want to line the rest of the pieces up in a certain order. So you have your outer piece down on your work surface, face up, pretty side up. The loop is on top. Next, you want the piece that has the rounded edge at the bottom, the flat edge at the top. This is the piece that's going to be most visible. That goes next. And again, if you mess this up and you do the other order, it's not a huge deal. You'll just be looking at your other scrap, which is totally fine. But if you want to try to stick to your original plan, the rounded edge lines up at the bottom first, and you're trying to keep that loop centered on your keychain. Then you get your second piece and it just goes right on top, and you are lining up the rounded edges with these 3 pieces of fabric. So you really want this to remain a nice, tidy circle shape. So you just want to move your fabric around so that all of the edges are lined up with each other, and your final size is still a nice little 3 5/8 inch circle. Now you're going to probably want to add a couple of pins to your keychain. Let's do 3. That feels like a good number. And then I used a 3/8 inch seam allowance for this keychain. So that means I'm sewing around this entire circle about 3/8 of an inch away from the raw edge. So let's go to the machine and I will show you how to do that. All right, back at the machine, my 3/8 line is my 10 mil line, so it's right there. So I am going to take my time and turn my piece slowly, trying to line up the edge near the needle with the 3/8 inch line. Oh, I just realized my thread's off. Okay, there we go, better. So I'm just taking my time and slowly turning. And you could turn your stitch length a little bit smaller if you're having a hard time turning this. Okay, and I'm gonna take my pin out as I get to it. And just keep going around. Okay, I finished sewing all the way around the keychain, and of course I did a little back stitch to reinforce the beginning and the end of my seam. I should have used a darker thread. I'm sorry. Sometimes I remember and sometimes I forget. Today I forgot. Once this seam is finished, I am going to cut away a little bit of the extra fabric and batting so that the seam allowance is closer to 1/4 inch. And this just makes it a little bit easier to get the air tag in and out, and also to turn this whole thing around, to turn it right side out. But a little bit of the seam allowance is nice because it gives a little extra stiffness to your keychain and a little extra protection to your air tag if you drop it. And of course, I will be saving my tiny bits in my tiny bits bin. If you've seen my videos, you know I save all my little bits, and they can either get composted if you use natural fibers. They can get recycled with different fabric recyclers like 4days.com. They can also get repurposed, and I have done some really fun projects repurposing my tiny bits, which are here on my channel if you're looking for things to do with your tiny bits. Okay, tiny bits aside, so now it's time to turn this whole thing right side out. Let's get rid of that extra thread there. And it is a little bit tricky to do this because the keychain has to be tight enough to not lose your air tag, but not so tight that you can't get your air tag in and out. So it's kind of a fine line that I am balancing here. And a chopstick, handy dandy chopstick, is always helpful for this, to push out the edges and make my circle nice and round. So you can kind of get your chopstick under that inner layer and push out your seam. Just like so. Okay, so it looks pretty round, pretty cute. My dog got a little bit cut off, but that's okay. All right, so now to get the AirTag into the keychain, just takes a second of patience. So you want to slide your AirTag under the first flap, and then you kind of got to grab the inner flap and just sort of massage the AirTag into place. It's going to take a second, which is good because that way you know your AirTag will be secure, but not impossible to get out. Come here, you. Okay. There. See, it didn't take that long. It wasn't that hard. And then what I like to do is to kind of toss my keychain around, sort of shake it, and make sure that that AirTag is not coming out. Yeah, it feels pretty secure. If you find that your AirTag is sliding out, you're going to want to take it out and go over your seam allowance again and make it a little bit bigger. So you're going to want to take in some of the fabric so that your keychain is a little bit smaller, but you want to work in very tiny increments so that you don't make your keychain too small. So if you find it's too big, just turn it wrong side out again and then just sew a little bit closer in, but do it in very small increments. Otherwise you'll be seam ripping, which is no fun. Okay, so the last thing to do is to get the split ring and just use your nails to open up that split ring and slide it into the strap, and then just go all the way around, and the keychain is finished. So cute. I wish my dog's head hadn't gotten cut off there, but I think it's still a pretty cute little keychain. And this will be perfect for hooking onto one of my kids' backpacks or just using it as an actual keychain for when we go out of the house. And if you are looking for more fun scrap busting projects to deal with your smallest scraps, I am linking to a playlist right here. And if you'd like to show some support for my channel, I'd love for you to check out my channel membership here on YouTube. Just click on the join button that is underneath this video to learn more.